Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I will explain to you guys very quickly about what we're doing because I need to put things into a bit of perspective. First of all, I am, sick is the word I'm going to be using for the remainder of this video, is that I am sick. What I'm sick of, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you right as soon as I can find a place to charge my phone. And this actually was a lot harder than at first sight, and I'm going to explain to you a small problem I've had, ladies and gentlemen, in the making of this video. That problem is the fact that I had a certain type. Well, I'll explain a little bit more about this injury later on, because, I think we're just going to put a nice little bow on the fact that I think there's about 25 more parts to the Christiana Comprehensive history, and I think the best thing to do right now is to just sort of get to basically the very end. So here we are, part 60. Now, previously what's happened in Chris's life is that he has fallen prey to the idea guys for the first time, and we're about to see what more of some of the stuff they did. So, let's go.
What made her this way? What is the attraction? What keeps us fascinated? This is the story of Chris Chan.
Okay, here we go. Part 60.
On November 15th, 2017, Christine went to Twitter to post about a new customization feature she unlocked in the Sonic the Hedgehog game Sonic Forces, which allowed users to create characters with different colored eyes, wondering if the feature was inspired by Chris's own slight heterochromia. The next day, she bought the video game Mother Russia Bleeds, set in an alternate timeline of 1980s Soviet Russia. On the 19th, Chris publicly updated the area code for Quickville, Virginia as 69488, likely instructed to do so by Joshua Wise, the person responsible for altering much of Quickville's storyline and Chris's own personal beliefs. Members of the Kiwi Farms discovered that it was a zip code in Germany, though could have been a coincidence since the number was more likely a combination of references: the sex position known as 69 and the white nationalist code 1488, representing the 14-word slogan, "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children," and the Nazi salute Heil Hitler, with the two 8s referring to the 8th letter of the English alphabet, H. On November 20th, Chris uploaded a new drawing on Patreon featuring Christine and Sailor Mercury and Luna from the Japanese anime series Sailor Moon having a conversation, with supposed Japanese translations next to their English speech bubbles.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It is likely that Wise provided her with falsified Japanese text from which to copy through role-playing as his alias, John Yamada, for none of the Japanese text matched the English dialogue. For example, Christine expressed pride in being able to write her name in Japanese, when in fact she had written "Watashi wa penisu omotte imasu," which translates to I have a penis. Furthermore, what Chris assumed was smart hearts, smart minds, well-educated support, actually translated to "You look like the kind of person who fucks a guy in the ass and doesn't have the courtesy to ejaculate inside him." Soon after, Chris's monthly Patreon earnings.
It's kind of interesting because there was nothing stopping Chris from actually looking into this, but the fact is that Chris accepted this as gospel almost immediately. In fact, it almost would imply the idea that there's people out there who know more about Quickville and the chronology of Rosechu than perhaps even Chris does. But as far as Chris is concerned, this is true, and the translation part's that's just really funny. Well, it's funny because for the fact that, again, Chris just believed it hook, line, and sinker. hilarious, that.
dropped from $647 to $491, with at least one individual commenting that the reason for their departure was her failure to ship a comic book to them. On November 26th, Chris went to
Chris making nearly as much as that on Patreon at all is insane anyway, but that really kind of topples it, doesn't it?
Twitter to reveal that Quickville would soon be holding elections for the next mayor, and posted a poll of the candidates, asking her readers who they would choose. The list consisted of actor Brendan Fraser, chairman of China Mao Zedong, Chris's fictitious secretary and former mayor Alison Amber, and dictator of Chile Augusto Pinochet. She later added that Russian President Vladimir Putin, who was purportedly the US president in Quickville's dimension, was also in the running. She afterwards posted a similar poll asking her fans to vote for the new chief of Quickville Police Department. Her list of candidates included infamous serial killer Ed Gein, drug trafficker and authoritarian ruler of Panama Manuel Noriega, and Chris's own troll-given alias, Ian Brandon Anderson. On November 28th, Christine posted on Patreon her
I can understand maybe why Noriega might have flown over Chris's head, but how did Edward Gein fly over Chris's head? Now, some might argue that, you know, Chris's Twitter might have been hacked or someone else was in possession of it to do stuff like this, but somehow I think Chris, though, just decided that this was just fun to do, I guess.
Calculations determining the age of her My Little Pony counterpart, Nightstar, to be 1,500 years old, accounting for the different lengths of years and days in the pony setting of Equestria. In early December, Joshua Wise began enacting a new campaign of trickery and thought-altering by telling Chris stories and presenting altered images purporting to show Nazi forces invading Quickville, Virginia, in the hopes of capturing all the heroes of the town. Wise's John Yamada persona told her that the Christian Weston Chandler of the Quickville dimension had been kidnapped by Nazis and sent to the past, where he acquired satanic powers and abolished women's rights to enact his love quest, while also helping Nazi Germany win World War II, thusly explaining why the United States of that alternate dimension was under Nazi occupation. Christine made an angry drawing and monologue depicting herself kicking Quickville's Christian in the groin for what he had done to the world, thusly killing Christian. On December 5th, Chris began posting new pages of Rosechu issue 15, detailing the births and early lives of Rosechu and Rosechu. Due to the influence of Joshua Wise, Chris changed the canonic birthday of Rosechu from March 17th to April 20th, either to reference the widely known date of 420, a celebration of marijuana smoking, or German dictator Adolf Hitler's birthday. Some members of the Kiwi Farms noticed that for the new pages, she was closely referencing, if not directly copying or tracing, the fan comic Rosechu's story, made by Kiwi Farms user Tricky. However, Chris took extra effort to depict the tail of the Raichu Pokemon, which later turns into Rosechu as a distinctly round-tipped female tail. Upon noticing this, Joshua Wise convinced her otherwise by claiming to be Rosechu, who had allegedly borrowed his computer to message Chris. On December 6th, Christine confessed on Facebook that Rosechu was born male. Okay, who's ready to have their minds totally, royally f***ed up? Rosie, our prime Rosechu.
That's the title right there. Totally royally fucked up.
Sweetheart of Rosechu was born as a Pichu. Male! The d***ed trolls were correct. Up until around the 4-cent garbage adventure, Rosie did have not a vagina, but a penis. She had the operation to become fully woman and give birth to Christine, Roberta, and Sarah. I felt super mortified and beyond shocked when she came out to me as a trans woman herself. Since when I created her after Rosechu around 2000, I had created her to be a female-only Pokemon, like a Kangaskhan. But, apparently, even though I am creator, apparently I am not a total goddess over my own city and creations. So,
first of all, that makes no sense. Second, Chris just, again, I know it's like it's beating a dead horse, but Chris didn't even, he just went with it like that. That's it. It didn't take any real convincing whatsoever from what I'm beginning to see, which is just kind of astonishing that somebody didn't think about doing this sooner. Well, I say that, but the fact is that people have probably tried to do this sooner, which is, again, I don't really know why Chris's attitude suddenly wavered now, but there are mysteries in this world in which I don't think I'll ever fully understand, for I do not have all the answers.
I will now put this to everyone online for their responses. Do you like it that for once the trolls were right? Or would you rather I revert back to telling everyone in book 15 that our Miss Rosechu was always female? She wanted me to come forward with her truth on her behalf, as much as it really hurts me deep. I really feel like I should be reeled into my pokeball and stored in the PC a while. I accept my rose, as having been born male. That is all. Feeling greatly conflicted by this latest revelation, Chris posted a poll on Twitter, asking her fans whether they would like to acknowledge the truly transsexed Rosechu or reject the so-called official history and continue considering Rosechu as have always been a girl. She later added that one choice would hurt Christine, while the other would hurt Rosechu, so the trolls would apparently be happy with either outcome. Chris's trollsome ex-girlfriend, Jessica Quinn, returned on Facebook to commend Christine for the progressiveness of establishing a male-to-female transgender Sonichu character. A day later, the voting on the poll concluded, with 57% of the people voting to recognize a transgender Rosechu.
That's a lot of votes.
Upon seeing these posts, notable QB Forums poster and moderator, the American Hedgehog, created a thread on the forums to collect and discuss all the recent and forthcoming information dispelled by Chris, which was decidedly made under duress or under the influence of an unknown troll feeding her ideas, who was at the time only referred to as Idea Guy. By this point, Wise had messaged some people on the QB Forums using his account BallsyMaker94, boasting about his involvement, but he had told them to keep his identity a secret. Marvin, moderator on the QB Forums, and the original man in the pickle suit, allegedly knew BallsyMaker94 was the Idea Guy, and even provided him with some advice concerning some trolling schemes. On December 11th, Christine unveiled a new character currently present in Quickfill, Battery Charge Heart, CPU of Quickfill, inspired by the CPUs, or goddesses, of the Hyperdimension Neptunia anime. Though unlike the original CPUs, Battery Charge does not represent any specific video game console. It was also on this day that Chris released a new YouTube video in which she recites what she believes to be a Cherokean chant, as informed by the Idea Guy, Joshua Wise, when in fact, it was the combination of the Russian taunt, Anu Chikibriki, popularized by the video game series Stalker, and Davai, which meant come on or let's go. She is also squatting with a bottle of vodka in front of her while wearing a cap and striped Adidas tracksuit, a wardrobe and mannerism associated with the Gopnik subculture of Russia and other former Soviet states.
Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki!
You know, just a small point. I watched a video by Totally Pointless TV a couple of months ago where he talked about Stalker, and I've come because it is large. Again, if you've never heard of Stalker before, it might possibly be something that intrigues you if you're into very post-Soviet apocalypse. But the thing to point is that I've never once heard the phrase "Anu Chikibriki" sort of being bastardized by listening to Chris screech it out, and that's kind of a thing I've never thought about talking about before. But Chris has a habit of screeching a lot of his words out. Have you guys noticed that, or am I just going crazy?
Briki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Anu Chikibriki! Davai! divide. A new chicken bricky, a new chicken bricky, a new chicken bricky, divide, divide, divide. A new chicken bricky, divide, divide, divide. A new chicken bricky, divide. God.
On December
Yeah.
14th, Marvin used his Howard Winslow Twitter account to tell Chris that the video game convention, MAGFest, would hold a panel discussing Chris-chan. Marvin encouraged her to attend. Also on that day, Christine urgently went to Facebook to inform her readers that Sylvana Rosechu, who existed in the same dimension as her entire city of Quickville, was lost in time, destroyed in the past. She pleaded for her fans to believe in Sylvana in the hopes that their power could bring her back. Later again, Christine wrote on Twitter that she sought revenge for those who destroyed Sylvana's original form, but in return presented the character's new form who appeared in her stead, Neo Sylvana Rosechu. It was around this time that Wise convinced Chris that the Hyperdimension Neptunia character Neptune was waiting for her at a GameStop. Chris drove to the GameStop from which she was banned for pepper-spraying an employee, honked her car horn, and repeatedly screamed Neptune's name. Afterwards, she went up to the window of the game retailer and quote-unquote scanned the interior, but did not see Neptune, so Chris made her way back home. Also in mid-December, Joshua Wise, messaging Chris while pretending to be Magichan Sonichu in Quickville, told her that he prophesied Sonichu would give birth to Chris's long-longed-for daughter, Crystal, after being anally penetrated by Christine. Wise as Magichan said that if Chris drew that sex act, then she would not have to do it in real life, and Crystal would still come into being. She then made a drawing showing herself having anal sex with Sonichu in order to produce Crystal.
No.
At around December 17th, Chris told one of Joshua.
I know I've said this before, but look, this hurts me worse, my son. I don't know. Sonichu looks like he's coming out of this worse, but there you are. And why the hell why do I also get the impression that this... Actually, let's not go there. Let's just move on.
At around December 17th, Chris told one of Joshua Wise's online personas that she was determined to go to her half-brother, Cole Smithy, in New York City to convince him to look after their mother, Barbara. Chris thought that a newly crafted Sonichu medallion made by Wise would be arriving in the mail, which would provide her with the powers to find out Cole's home address, though Wise never told her of any such thing. He convinced Chris not to go to New York, for Smithy needed not get involved in the Chandler's affairs, and that her family was low on funds. The next day, Christine confessed to one of the characters portrayed by Joshua Wise that she had renounced Christianity and instead began worshipping the CPUs of Hyperdimension Neptunia. She reasoned that she could get more speedy and efficient advice and guidance from the CPUs as opposed to God and Jesus. Chris was further convinced of the power of the CPU goddesses because she had the ability to create her own CPU after learning from them, and the opportunity to become part of the family team of CPUs was a dream that Jesus could never grant her, no matter how hard she prayed. On December 23rd, Christine posted 2 more drawings featuring the Sailor Moon characters Sailor Neptune, Michiru, and Haruka, claiming that their speech bubbles had been translated into another language, when in fact, the accompanying translations were German lines of pro-Nazi dialogue taken from the video game series Brothers in Arms and Wolfenstein. 3 days later, she updated her Facebook followers with troubling news from Quickville, provided to her by Joshua Wise. She thought that there was civil unrest in her town because in addition to rallies held by Ku Klux Klansmen, DJ Jamsta Sonichu was put on trial for molesting Punchy Sonichu, which resulted in the Punchy Sonichu riots. She denied rumors that Magichan was running Quickville like a police state, as he was not a criminal, and neither was the new mayor of Quickville, Brendan Fraser. Chris added that to stop the criminals wreaking havoc in her town, the Trollbusters Anti-Troll Task Force was being reorganized into the Quickstapo, a reference to the secret police of Nazi Germany. After a break of 10 days from online posting, Chris returned to Twitter on January 3rd, 2018, when she noticed that artist Brian Frogboy also known as Brian Shickley, posted a page from his so-called Christian prequel comic, focused on the earlier years of Christian's life. Brian stated that he did not intend on finishing the new project and left it aside as practice. Christine commented that she was very interested in seeing how the story developed and how the artist would treat some aspects of Christian's past life. With this encouragement, Brian...
Do you think I should read the prequel comic and do a video about it? No, it might be interesting to see. So, duck. Yeah, okay, I probably will. Yeah, that makes sense.
Continued to work on completing the comic before the end of the month. 2 days later, Chris liked a video on YouTube which claimed to feature subliminal frequencies that would cause one to astral project, or to theoretically have their consciousness travel to another time and place outside of the confines of their physical body. Also on that day, Chris announced a surprise marriage over Twitter and Facebook. I am celebrating the love between Magi-chan Sonichu and his mentor and lover, Mewtwo. They had got secretly married recently. I'm truly happy for both of them, and if Sylvana were there, the three of them would have made a lovely harem. On January 6th, Chris arrived for the first day of the music and gaming festival, MAGFest, and spent a great deal of time taking photos with her fans. She also attended a freelance art panel where she interrupted the discussion to provide some advice from personal experience.
We're the first one, we signed it, we did it, that was the earliest date ever, and all the paperwork that
It was noted that she brought a baseball bat with her.
Okay, first of all, that's kind of concerning. Chris would bring a baseball bat. And second, thank you for keeping that clip short, Gino. I don't think I could have listened to it.
To be used in a case of self-defense.
Oh.
The schedule for the second day of the convention featured a retrospective of the history of Sonichu and its creator, Chris Chan. Christine attended the panel as an observing audience member. The room was veritably packed, and the panelists discussed subjects of an intimate level, which included the many trolling sagas, and She Came for Quick, the drawing in which Chris depicted himself sexually satisfying his friend, Megan Schroeder. After the discussion was concluded, the panelists gave Chris a chance to speak, after which time the audience gave Christine a standing ovation and encouraging applause. She proceeded to walk down the aisle, high-fiving and hugging her adulating fans. Chris's longtime trollsome gal pal, Kim Wilson, was also in attendance and later recounted the experience.
Okay.
The panel was created to definitely be a huge mockery of Chris. Chris wasn't invited, as far as I'm aware of, and only decided to come because he got wind of it. It was more or less of a surprise to the people running the panel when they found out he was there. They definitely glossed over a lot of their slides and made it seem more positive. A lot of the shit they said was wrong, even simple stuff like, he got fired from Burger King. Apparently, their biggest source wasn't even the Wikipedia, but random videos of other people talking about him or interviews, which is just lazy, but pretty funny. So after Chris spoke and was heading back to his seat in the back, he was high-fiving people. This one girl got a high five and a hug from him and basically just shrieked with happiness. She shook her hand at her friend, yelling about how Chris touched her hand and wouldn't let anything touch that hand, and kept going on and on about how Chris touched her hand and was overjoyed by it to the point that I actually thought this girl was going to go find him to suck his dick. She wasn't even a fat or unattractive girl either, so IDK. Marvin was also there and later wrote his account of the event on Kiwi Farms.
Okay, here we go.
What everyone seems to be wondering, does Chris smell? No, at least there isn't like some miasma cloud hanging around him. I was pretty close to him, but I obviously didn't stick my nose in his shirt or anything. So if he's got a smell, you definitely won't notice anything just casually hanging around him. And even if you really are determined to get a whiff, it's probably not that strong. It helps that it's the winter, and so he's not hustling around in the heat. No perfume or axe this time either. Chris stayed back after the panel to talk with her fans and take photos with them.
Right now, what are your thoughts on it?
I love all gays and lesbians!
I mean, it's not a bad thing, not a bad answer, Chris, but the fact that you just literally, you leaped, well, I'd say you leapt forward to basically hug her, and what you look like you're about to carry her off with you. I'm half expecting somebody to like shout, "No! Leon! Leon!" Anyway, basically you can imagine that carries on for a while, just like how Ashley does in Resident Evil 4 and stuff like that, but it's good to know Chris never really learned the concept of, consent, did he? No, he didn't. By the way, and I say that, but even to this day, Chris has still not understood the concept, but we'll get into that a little bit more later.
Also in the audience was Adam Stackhouse, the winner of the 2007 Parappa the Rapper Song Contest, who was the subject of much of Chris's anger at the time. They seemed to finally meet on pleasant terms and took a selfie together.
Well,
on January 9th, Brian Frogboy posted another image from his Sonichu prequel comic. Chris commented that the page accurately described his yearnings back then, having devoted too much time on fulfilling his love quest instead of focusing on Sonichu, admitting to being too selfish back then. The next day, Alan Denton, a writer for the Sonic Boom TV series, tweeted, "I love when people are inspired enough by something to write their own fanfiction. Totally support that. But, and I can't believe I have to say this, if you then insist to the creators that your made-up story become canon, you've gone too far. Whisper silently to my folder of Sonichu fanfic, but not you. You'll all be canon one day."
Good lord.
2 days later, Christine shared newly uncovered memorabilia concerning her late father, Bob Chandler, which included a newspaper clipping regarding his 25th anniversary of working with General Electric, and a flyer advertising his so-called musical pushcart, which would play vintage music for any willing listeners in downtown Charlottesville.
Wow.
On January 10th, the idea guy, Joshua Wise, invited an unknown user of the Kiwi Farms to take part in a trollsome conversation with Chris, using the messaging function of the digital video game distribution service Steam. The other party was told to portray the part of high-ranking SS figure during World War II, Hermann Fegelein, who was allegedly threatening to lead German forces into the My Little Pony land of Equestria, claiming that it had belonged to the Reich centuries ago. Their conversation ultimately concludes inconclusively, with the threat of invasion pending. Wise later wrote that he pushed the Nazi storyline onto Chris since she easily identified them as a villainous entity and did not understand why Russians, North Koreans, or communists were bad. On January 16th, Wise convinced Chris that Nazis had planted a surveillance bug inside her Christine doll, which she had fashioned out of a My Little Pony figurine to make it look more like herself. She proceeded to destroy the doll on camera.
Okay.
Frickin' Nazis. I am not afraid of any of you. And you do anything else in Quickville, I'm gonna send you all down the river. You may as well send yourselves down the river before I send you all down the river.
That didn't really make sense, Chris, and you're not really winning and destroying your own doll. Oh wait,
I think I can be bought off like this by having feel it most of myself. Even the ones I end up putting together and you end up bugging. Well, I won't have it, and you all will not be in Quickville for much longer. See to it personally.
Chris, maybe you should...
Oh, I really glued this thing good. Anyway.
She then uses a part of a bed frame to attempt to crush the doll further.
So there!
3 days later,
That
Chris
showed
continued the anti-Nazi theme by uploading a video on YouTube in which she destroys her Christmas tree to intimidate the Nazis, which were apparently invading the My Little Pony land of Equestria.
You friggin' Nazis! I'm gonna kick you all out of Equestria! Nazis! Every last one! Kick your ass out! You're gonna... Oh, you... What do you think of that now, you freaking Nazis? Heed my warning! You get out of Equestria, you freaking Nazis!
Chris then rips up a picture of wrestler Hulk Hogan, in reference to notable Kiwi Farms commenter Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who regularly made fun of Chris's weight.
Who's a fat ass now, Hulkster? My favorite wrestler is Chris Benoit!
And of course Chris would have to bring Chris Benoit into this for absolutely no reason. Oh, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who Chris Benoit is, good. It's probably better if people don't know who Chris Benoit is now, in hindsight.
My brothers, sisters, and I, of Antifa, we will assure you freaking Nazis, get the hell out!
Actually, hang on, no, wait a second. Why would Chris say Chris Benoit is his... Chris... Does Chris know what Benoit did? I mean... You know what? Let's just say Chris knew, but decided to go with this anyway. No, that can't make sense. That's ridiculous. But why would... You know what? I don't care. Moving on.
Equestria now!
Thank you for providing sound effects too, Chris.
I'll be back. Hasta!
On January 20th, in response to an artist on Twitter posting an image of their new waifu, or illustrated, usually female character one may feel romantically attached to, Chris objected to the concept, writing that she never understood how people could feel that a character from a show who has dimensions out of their league was like a significant other to them. She was instead more old-fashioned, preferring real women. Christine added that she only purchased a dakimakura, or body pillow with a female anime character's image on it, out of peer pressure, suggested to do so by one of her ex-girlfriends. During the time Chris had it, she never envisioned it as anything more than just a pillow, and apparently had already disposed of it. The next day, Chris tweeted a retraction. Hey everyone, I'm tweeting right now to retract and correct the comment I made a short while ago about waifus. I was insensitive not only to all of you in this world, but also to those individuals who are fictional here, who all are real in the other dimension of this world. Those waifus are real. They all have feelings too. I was in mind of a year or two ago when I was proposed the question about my waifu by my past girlfriend. I did not really have a waifu then because I had never really thought about it beforehand, ever. Soon after, she deleted these tweets, and in their place, retweeted the original tweet which sparked this discussion, and wrote that all those who had waifus should treat them with the utmost kindness and respect, as they were real, had families, and all that. This sudden change of mind may have been the result of Joshua Wise beginning to roleplay with Christine as the hyperdimension Neptunia character, Blonde. They got into arguments concerning Chris's laziness and how she would treat Blanc if they were in a relationship. When asked what she would do if on a date with Blanc, Chris wrote, "Firstly, we get to the bedroom. Communication is key, and I would listen. We get undressed. I would make out with you, make my way downwards, and I would put my 2 middle fingers onto your clit for starters. Then, I would progress into your vulva with my fingers and rub the front inside of your vagina. And with your request, I would lick it on the clit, the edges, and even put my tongue into your vag." This allegedly disgusted Blonde.
Terrific.
On January 22nd, Kiwi Farms moderators revealed the identity of the idea guy as Joshua Wise. They also posted his date of birth, home address, and the Facebook pages of himself and his family members. The forum members claimed that the reason for the revelation was because the content that Chris was producing under Wise's influence was quote-unquote trash. Others then came forward with information that Wise had provided them, including new pages of the Rosechu comic that were drawn under his influence. For example, some of Christine's characters became Islamic extremists or drug dealers. Also, Chris created new Rosechu characters, including Bundy Chu, in honor of infamous serial killer Ted Bundy, and Robert Chu, in honor of her father. Thinking that publicizing his personal information would be enough to deter him from contacting Chris again,
It didn't.
QB Farms members assumed that the Idea Guy saga was over. However, Joshua Wise, playing the part of John Yamada, instead informed Christine that he had come under attack and could not communicate efficiently with her anymore, so he redirected Chris to Johnson Wiles, Yamada's original character, or OC, residing in a different dimension, through whom Wise continued to message Chris. On the 23rd, Chris officially created a new pony character, influenced by Wise, named Cunty Nugget, apparently of Vietnamese heritage, whose name Wise claimed translated to happiness. 5 days later, Chris attended a Pokemon trading card game tournament at the End Games card game store, wherein participants opened and then played with newly released cards contained within a pre-release kit, with an entry fee of $30. On the final day of January, Chris posted a YouTube video in which she asks for people to buy her old Pokemon cards to help pay for her mother's dental care.
Hello.
Again, now, not that it's entirely relevant to add, but final day of January, so I would have just turned 20 years old. But just for reference, I know I may have mentioned this before, but my 20th birthday was probably one of the worst days of my entire life. So, all things being equal, Chris probably had a better day than I did.
Hello everybody, this is Christine Chandler coming to you live from home once again. Captain's Log, Stardate 01312018. Yes, and before we begin with this, I would like to give a special shout out and appreciation to Brian Frogboy on Twitter for the Chris Chan Prologue comic book. Hey, I'm working with him. We're gonna try to get a few copies of that book going around. I'm personally doing that. It's the okay. Though the details are a bit off here and there, it's still very good. Anyway, this video, aside from that, is about, in particular, my collection of old Pokemon cards. I am literally going to be selling these on eBay, and I'm pretty much showing you all what you get here. Anyway, so I'm just going to thumb through this and you'll get to see what you get. You get more than 150 or so cards. You're not going to find these elsewhere. And you're going to get plenty of bang for your buck, not only because of the cards, but because of the bonus content that is mine and mine alone.
Chris goes on to display 2 binders filled with Pokemon cards.
That's my very first Pokemon card, base set Charmeleon. And do you know where I got this card from? I literally got it from this Nintendo Power Magazine. I'm thinking about adding this to a listing and this as well for its own listing, and I'd sign it. Here, watch me sign it right now, alright? Now this guy's gonna need a dental job. This listing is definitely going to help restore my mother's teeth. She still has lots of problems with that. This is it. This is my very first card ever. And I definitely personally document it on the card that's in here. See? I got my very first Pokemon card from the February 1999 Nintendo Power issue. Yay! #1 card. Alright, so that's it for now. In a little while, I'll probably do a dance video because that was a pay request. But I have so many other things, obligations to take care of right now, believe it or not. It's true. Alright, so y'all have a great, safe day. Keep a happy thought.
The binders were listed on eBay with buy it now prices of $700 and $200 respectively, and the signed Nintendo Power Magazine was put up for $150. Card trader Kabbalah Coffers offered $500 for the larger binder, which Chris eventually accepted. Upon receiving the package, Kabbalah Coffers filmed an unboxing video showcasing what he received.
As you can see, she wrote "handle with care" everywhere, and this is loose, rolling around in the box.
He proceeds to sanitize the binder and was optimistic about his purchase. He later appraised the cards and reckoned that he comfortably made his money back after the first 14 pages, and believed that in a few years, the contents of the binder could be worth $3,000 or $4,000.
Damn.
In response to the purchase, Chris notified her Facebook followers that all of the proceeds went to her mother, Barbara, who promptly scheduled a dental appointment. Her Facebook friend, William Elliott Waterman, doubted that she could set up an appointment so quickly, and Chris's troublesome ex-girlfriend, Jessica Quinn, was optimistic that Chris would for the time being stop using her mother to sell her junk. Not long after, Chris purchased 2 Pokemon cards on eBay, costing a total of $52. On February 1st,
Why?
Christine bought the PlayStation 1 game Blast Chamber on eBay for $5. Also on that day, Chris posted a photo on Facebook of herself drawing new comic pages on a clipboard clipped onto an easel, proud to be standing and drawing. 2 days later, in response to a comment on Twitter, Brian Frogboy wrote that he personally did not believe cartoons were real in another reality, but did not influence what Chris believed. Chris replied, stating, "That is a real shame that you say that, at Brian Frogboy, because our fictional individuals are real, and they do exist. They are alive and breathing and living, just like you, I, and everyone else in this world. You should open your mind and heart to them fully." After another fan reply, Brian wrote that if Christine truly believed a cartoon reality existed, then she should consult a professional. Chris responded, "Consult a professional is another insensitive comment. That is strike 2 at Brian Frogboy. More
that told
appropriately, you should see it for yourself to try to understand for yourself."
That doesn't make sense.
The next day, Brian Frogboy posted a printable illustration of his rendition of a Rosechu medallion, which Chris did not approve.
I'm a little country pop. We're gonna make your hatred stop. I tell you straight up, no lies. Our emotions, thoughts, and love.
On February 5th, after coming in contact with Chris, the independent, self-confessed boy band Boy Spicy released a song titled "Love is Love," featuring Christine on lead vocals. She sings the lyrics she originally wrote for Rosechu issue 12, with Boy Spicy providing the instrumental backing track.
Bully's gonna tell us you've been pwned.
On February 7th, Brian Shickley revealed that he had received a printed proof copy of his Christian prequel comic, which was printed by the custom book publishing site Lulu. They discussed how he would provide the books for Chris to sell by herself, stating that she would be getting all the profits. 2 days later, Chris announced that her Rosechu comic books were once again available for purchase from Lulu for the first time since her ban in December 2015, which she evaded by creating a new account. Christian.
Oh, is this when Gino first came onto the scene? Yes, it is.
Arguably the most documented person in history. On February 11th, YouTube user Gino Samuel 2 uploaded a video titled Christian, A Comprehensive History, Part 1, a multi-part documentary project presenting a near-complete chronology of Chris's life based on all available information in an objective manner. The video was quickly shared on QE Farms, and the channel steadily grew in popularity. He would continue to regularly upload installments of the Comprehensive History series over the next 5 months. This is the story of Christian.
That's really weird. Now we've come like almost full circle with this.
On February 16th, Christine received her copy of the Christian prequel comic by Brian Shickley and posted a photo of herself holding it up. On the 20th, she posted photos of her new Christine and Nightstar dolls, which were repainted My Little Pony figurines, like their predecessors. 2 days later, she spilled paint on several pages of Rosechu issue 14, but instead of throwing them away, decided to list the stained pages on eBay, announcing so in a YouTube video.
From my recent painting projects, I had an accident. I spilled some paint on my hand-drawn cover of Rosechu number 14, as well as the first 3 pages. So I'm going to be tracing and redrawing these 4 items. So at this point, I'm going to be putting these up on eBay. So if any of y'all would like something that was originally hand-drawn with me from amongst my books, now's a good time. Even though it's a bit damaged, but still, you know how it is with artists. That's what makes it more unique. And I'll personally put a certificate of authenticity on all these, and these will come in a page sleeve. So step right up and pay some good money for a little bit more of something authentic from me. Thank you and have an awesome day.
Terrific.
The pages were listed with an asking price of $100. And
bear in mind, sold. Yeah. Bear in mind, somebody willfully wanted to pay for pages that people would have just thrown this away. They wouldn't have wasted their time on this. I also, by the way, seller Christine. So I guess Jesus didn't guide him after all.
And were sold 2 minutes after being posted.
Really?
On February 24th, Chris celebrated her 36th birthday and made a special announcement on Facebook. Everyone, please listen. I would like to personally talk about Christian Love Day, as it is not only my own birthday, it is not a day of loving Christians, though they are people who deserves as much kindness and love as everyone else respectively and individually.
Because poor literacy causes you to fuck your own mother. Can we get to the point of this, Chris?
Individually does. And side note, it is also Mexico's Flag Day. But what Christian Love Day truly means to me, and I feel should be encouraged for everyone else to follow in suit on every February 24. If you would, please. It is a day to extend your love and kindness to everyone, period, and do it with as much gusto and sincerity as you like. May they be family, sweetheart, friend, ally, workmate, creature, plant, an individual who is a fantasy character in this world of ours, and, of course, even a stranger or someone you do not know yet. Share the love. Moreover, let your friendship and family circles grow. Do not be shy. The more genuine love and kindness you give, the more you do get from them and everyone else. Give a hug. Give a smile. Say hey there, for Christian Love Day is the special day we give love and kindness to everyone. Thank you all so much. Love, Miss Christine Weston Chandler. For the time being, it seemed that Christine had regained some semblance of control of her own life and her mind. Her online reputation continued to provide her with additional income in the form of eBay sales and Patreon supporters. However, out of sight of the public eye, individuals with menacing plans were toying with her emotions and beliefs and were about to push her to her breaking point.
And whilst we also examine the patrons, wow, disgusting little man, I know who that is. So, I want to say this just before we go, and, well, it's kind of bizarre in the sense that Chris was half trying to play this off, and half the times he was just more than content to let things lie low and just allow things to be. And now that we've sort of are stepping away and we're beginning to move into the areas of Chris's life where Chris basically shuns all responsibility and instead is only content to sit back and basically wallow in his own piss. Because, well, I don't know if it's in part 62 or maybe part 61 for that matter, but you can see what I can only describe as Chris very nearly getting kicked out of his own house for reasons that will become very obvious, but let's pretend I don't know any of this, because I think it makes it more interesting that way, but we will cover this next time. So I hope all of you guys have enjoyed part 60 of Chris Chan, A Comprehensive History, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.